I hate videos. Now, you may be wondering, if I hate videos, what the heck am I doing here? Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome. It is Wonder Women Wednesday, the first one for the month of September. And September is a special month for me because it's my birthday month and I get to celebrate with all of you. So if you are watching live, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. My name is Inge van Roy, and I am recognized as a community connection catalyst. What that means is I help you build your community, the community that you need in your life, whether it is a community of friends, a community of customers, clients. I'm here for all of that and so much more. Um, Today, I'm excited because I get to chat with a lady. Her name is Yvette Walker, and she and I are talking about her faith in God because that is what has helped her overcome the adversity that she's faced in her life. I'm excited. I'm also just checking on the radio because I'm wrapping up a song, and our listeners on radio are enjoying that. So before we jump into the conversation, and before I actually welcome Yvette on stage, I want to say thank you to our amazing sponsors at Africa Online Radio. If you are watching this live right now, please go and check it out. We are live also on radio at africop.co.za, and you can listen in as I play music. And at the end of this conversation with my friend Yvette, I will be wrapping up and also playing some music and giving you some tips on how you can cultivate your own faith. So I'm excited about that. Just wrapping up the song on this side and then we can get started. So please drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And I know that there are many people who would rather watch than say hello, but I want to let you know that you are welcome here. And if you want, send us a message. And if you don't want, that's okay. Go ahead and listen. And I hope that you are able to glean some information from this live stream and learn, because that's what we're here for. If you're not learning and growing, you're dying, right? So here we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are listening live on radio, this is Inge van Roy, and you heard a song called Falling in Love with Jesus. And I'm not sure, I'm going to check, but has anybody been able to guess who the person is that sang that song? Let me know. Oh, I see some messages, so I'm gonna be checking that out. Thank you to you. If you've sent me a message, I don't see anyone. Oh, Amanda. Amanda, well done. Yes, that was by Jonathan Butler. And welcome to everyone who are tuned in. I want to say thank you to you wherever you are tuning in from in the world today. I am about to bring my guest on, but I want to welcome you to Wonder Women Wednesday, where we get to highlight ordinary women making an extraordinary difference. My name is Inge van Roy, and I'm broadcasting to you live all the way from Canada. We are live on radio as well as on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you are listening on radio, I want to remind you that Africa Online Radio is really your oasis of entertainment. It is a place where we bring you only the very best in local and international music, and we are your Kapsa vibe. So, without further ado, why don't I bring on my wonderful guest, Yvette? Welcome, Yvette.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, yes.
Good. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Your audio is a little soft, but let's see.
Well,
Um,
how about if I get a little closer? Is that better?
yes, much better.
Okay, I will get a little closer. All right.
Thank you, Yvette, for being here. Won't you please say hello to everyone who's watching and listening and let them know who you are and what you do, please?
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. Just really quickly, I want to say to you, Inger, happy birthday month. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
honored to be the first of the month here on Wonder Women Wednesday. I mean, it's a great show, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. And hi, everybody. I am actually on my lunch hour working, and I'm in Kansas City. I just moved to Kansas City from Oklahoma City. And I am the host of the Positively Joy podcast and the founder of
Mhm.
Positively Joy Ministries, which basically exists to help mostly Christian women, but really anyone understand what the true joy of God is and how that can help you with your faith and your faith through adversity, as we're going to talk about today. And I like to say that joy is not a feeling, it's faith.
Mm.
And so we talk about that along with my guests on my show, but also through encouragement on social media, through my books ministry. I have a devotional and accompanying um, discussion guide that goes with the devotional. The devotional is called Whispering in His Ear. And that
Mm.
title tracks from when I felt like I really couldn't communicate with God any longer,
Beautiful.
like I used to when I was, much younger, and
Mhm.
that quest. And then the accompanying guide, God's Voice and How to Listen, explores a little bit deeper and has discussion questions that would pair nicely with the devotional, and it's great for small groups. And so
Lovely.
that's who I am. And in addition to everything else I do.
Well, thank you and welcome. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Um, why, before we jump in, I want to read some comments actually, because mm, so a friend of mine says, I'm excited for today's discussion and feeling a little hopeful today. And she says, I love that. Joy is not a feeling, it's faith. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Yes, thank you.
Yes. And let's see, I received quite a few messages, and I just want to make sure that I am acknowledging everyone. So greetings to you, Kurt. Thank you. He says, greetings, Inga, and everyone else. Thank you for tuning in. And we also have Divine Devette tuning in as well. She said she's listening in. Thank you, Divine. Um, and yes, Wayne and Amanda, you guys guessed right. That song that I was playing was by Jonathan Butler. Um, let's see, who else? Mr. Abrams, he says, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Abrams, for tuning in. Nice to see you here. And we've got Samantha and Kenny as well. So thank you, everyone, for just being here with us and spending a little bit of time with us. It's good. It's always good, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's just go to the comments and see what my we have Whitney tuned in. She says hello from Katy, Texas. And she's also saying happy birthday month, Inga. Thank you. Thank you, Whitney.
Hi, Whitney. I used to live in Oklahoma, which is not too far from Texas, although Katy, Texas
Oh,
is pretty far south. So,
yeah, it is. Um, so, Yvette, won't you walk us through your career journey and let us know, where you started out to where you are right now? Just walk us through that, please.
absolutely. I have been a journalist my entire career. During that time, I also took a small part of that time to do some teaching and actually be an assistant dean at a journalism college. But it was always about journalism. I believe journalism is so important, not only in my country, but in the world, to help people understand what's going on around them and help people know the information they need to know to make decisions about their own lives and to understand what our leaders are doing and telling us, because sometimes certain issues can be very complicated. And so we try to break things down for readers as well. And so I think journalism is very important. At the same time, my faith is very important. I was raised Catholic. I grew up going to Catholic school and high school. Uh, I I felt very close to my creator when I was younger. But then, you grow up, you get busy, you start working, you start moving around for your careers, you start your family. And for me, even though I still went to church and believed, I felt like God was moving farther from me and I could not hear his voice. And it really pained me to think that I couldn't hear from him and maybe he wasn't even hearing me anymore, right? It was interesting because I am now in Kansas City, back in full time journalism, because I feel that the Lord was telling me this is where I needed to be for such a time as this. And so, but it's interestingly enough, when I was still living in Oklahoma, I visited Kansas City with my then fiance, now husband. We were at a church, and during worship, one of the songs just moved me so much that I just started crying. I mean, bawling my eyes out. So when we left, he asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, but it just makes me so sad that I can't hear God's voice anymore." And then he said something to me so profound, but I didn't know it at the time. "Don't you think you just did?" And so I've been thinking about that. Years pass. I'm still kind of wondering why this is happening, and I have an opportunity to go on a retreat that took me, as it happens, to Texas, not in Katy, but to Texas. And it was there where we did some exercises, and I was just able to really spend some time with the Lord, where I feel like I had a breakthrough, and I feel like that communication gap that was closed opened again. And when I got home from that retreat, the floodgates just opened, and I was writing, oh my goodness, lots of things I hadn't written before. I started writing Christian song lyrics. I started writing lots of essays that later turned into the devotional. And it was just, again, this huge release. And so since that time, then of course the pandemic happened the very next year. So this retreat was in 2019. Pandemic happens in 20. And in 20, I start the podcast where God told me to speak on joy. Of course, I really didn't know what he wanted me to talk about in that moment. But we've been around for 3 years now, and our third anniversary was in May of 2020. And over that
Wow.
time, he's revealed to me that he wants people to understand what real joy is, because
Mm.
too many people think joy is being happy all the time
Yeah.
or being content. And while I believe he enjoys us being happy, he didn't promise that we'd be happy all
Mm.
the time. He promised that he
Yes.
would walk with us and be with us
Mm-hmm.
during bad times and good times. But where we can find joy is that connection with him, that being in his presence, knowing that he is there. And I I have a signature scripture that I use for the podcast. It's in John chapter 15, and I like to joke it's below the vine and the branches, which is the famous one, right? Below that, and if you keep reading, Jesus, what I like to say, Jesus gives you a DIY on how to find joy. And he tells us a couple of things: to abide in the Father's love and to do his will. And we will be filled with the only joy that will complete us.
Amen.
And so that is what joy is. And that is how we are filled with joy. And so he's revealed that to me over time. We talk about that on the website. I have a weekly newsletter also where we talk about these different things. And it's just been a really sweet ride.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Um, hmm. So, in starting your podcast, what was that like for you? I know so many who feel a calling to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but don't answer. And there are others that reluctantly answer. What was it like for you?
It was interesting because a year or so before I started the podcast, I had the opportunity to do a very short fellowship at a radio station where I learned a piece of software called Audition, which is audio software. And I knew just enough to be dangerous. Didn't know it that well. And I said, okay, I had been thinking about this podcast idea, right? Just like you say, there are
Mhm.
people sitting around. And so during the pandemic, I was very blessed to be able to work from home. And so I was there, I had my computer, I had this software Audition. I didn't have a mic or anything else yet, but I'm like, this can't be that hard. I must be able to figure out how to do this, right? So
Mhm.
I was going to start this podcast, and it was going to be on hair and beauty.
Mm.
And the Lord said, no, it is not going to be on hair and beauty, but you are going to start a podcast, and it's going to be on joy. And
Mm.
I said, okay, because, I'm obedient when the Lord tells me to do something. But I really didn't know what direction I was going in. So it was a little scary. I jumped in feet first, not a lot of planning, didn't have all my equipment. But as I said, I knew just enough to be dangerous with Audition. And since then, there's lots of other opportunities to use software to be able to have a podcast. We're on various things right now that people use to be able to do their podcast. Um, and I'm always happy to help new podcasters. The first, if you need any help, please reach out.
Mhm.
I My website is positivelyjoy.com. You can reach me on there. You have to have a couple of things, but again, if you have faith, if you have belief, the Lord will steer you in the direction you need to go. And he'll put people in your path to help you out. But the
Yes.
first thing you do need is a podcast hosting site. So I Googled, right, best free podcast hosting sites. And I use Podbean. I looked at a couple of those best of lists, and Podbean was always in the top 5. There is a free version, but the more you do with it, there are fees. But I use Podbean. I've been with it since 2020, the whole time, and I like it. It works for me. But there's lots of different other ones as well. So you
Yes.
really need some way to record. You need a podcast hosting company because it sends it out,
Mhm.
and you need something to say. And for me, it was, I was getting that faith and inspiration from Jesus. So that's how I started.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to. Oh, I see that we have a comment from um, a friend on LinkedIn. So Babalwa says, "Good evening, Ings and Yvette. Thank you for a great topic and for sharing such an awesome journey, Yvette."
Well,
Yes.
thank you for commenting. It was a really interesting journey, and it's one that I like to share because I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what was going to happen. The fact that I made a move in my career, this late into my career, was very, very different as well. But I tried to listen and ask him, what do you want me to do, and what do you want me to do in my life? And also convict me if I'm making wrong decisions.
Mm.
And that is how I try to stay on the straight and narrow.
Well, thank you. Um, so, Yvette, I think I told you this when I first met you, but I speak about the principle of Ubuntu. And there are quite a few people that actually don't know what it means. So, for their benefit, I want to put up the definition here. So, Ubuntu is an ancient African word meaning humanity to others. It is often described as reminding us that I am because we are. And for me, I will tell you that, because of Ubuntu, I have just developed this sense of community. I've developed a community that I've become friends and family with, really. They're my chosen family, right? Um, and you know, the reason why I believe in this principle so wholeheartedly is just because I know that I wouldn't be who I am today were it not for the people that I've encountered along this journey called life. And it's so important to remember that, yes, we we want to acknowledge that no man is an island. Um, but one of the biggest things that's around this concept is really knowing that when you are in community with others, you pour into each other's lives and you learn and grow together and learn from each other as well. So tell me, what does community mean to you?
Oh my goodness, everything, just what you said.
Mm,
Sticking with communication in the podcast, as I said, God puts people in your path, and really, without community, I would not be even where I am today. It's so important for people to be there around you to build you up. And even if those people aren't flesh and blood people around you, there are people, thanks to technology today, right? There are people who you can surround yourself with that will build you up, that will inspire you, that will give you hope and faith. And someone you mentioned earlier was listening to the show and said they were full of hope. And that just makes my heart so warm, because we need to be full of hope. And it's one reason I started a Facebook group, the Positively Joy Community, because, yeah, I want people to be out there to be able to uh, pour into me, and we pour into them, and ask questions and share Bible verses and even funny videos sometimes, just to help each other out through your day. And so
mm,
that community really is everything. You are absolutely right. I didn't know I was practicing Ubuntu, but I guess I am.
I think you are. Um, so, how does the work that you do relate to community? Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. So, as I said, I was a college dean, dean of students, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved working with my students very, very much, and really help helping to fashion the next generation of journalists. I mean, it was wonderful. But an opportunity came for me to get back into full time journalism. And full time journalism, especially at a local news outlet, is all about community. So I am in a community that we are writing stories for and taking photographs and shooting video to talk about what's happening in our community, how people can understand how it affects them, and what they can do to live richer lives in this community, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
the area that I work, I used to be in what's called news, but now I'm in an area called opinion or editorial. And in this area, we can even, I think, do that to even a deeper degree where we are allowed to
Yeah.
give perspectives and opinions on certain topics,
Yeah.
and to challenge and to call for leaders to do better and to work better for their constituents, for the community that we live in. So what I do
Beautiful.
now, I think, is very much connected to community.
I love that. And what other kind of communities are you part of?
So I'm new here, but back in Oklahoma, I was very involved in my church community. Very, very involved. Did a lot of
Mhm.
things there, and I just I think found my new church community here. So I'm excited, and I hope to really get involved that way too. I think it's so important for you to surround yourself, as I just said, with community. But specifically, if you are a believer or a seeker, and my
Mm.
definition of seeker is a little bit different. Some people believe that a seeker is just even like below a believer, but to me, to my in my definition, it's above, because I believed all those years, but now I'm really seeking to have a deeper relationship with God, even though I believed all those years, right? So when we
Mm.
when we want that, we have to surround ourselves with other believers and seekers, and iron sharpens iron, as it says in the
Yes.
Bible, and so that is why that is so incredibly important. And when we got here, which is just 2 months ago, Ingrid, I haven't been here that long,
Wow.
we started, quote unquote church shopping, because we wanted to jump in immediately and find
Yeah,
the church that was right for us. And so, like I said, I think we found it, which I'm very excited about, because now that we've made that decision, we can go on and really become a part of that community.
that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I want to read you a comment from someone,
Mhm.
and this was sent like 15 minutes into the conversation. They said, I'm loving her story already because one tends to sometimes get to the point of asking or wondering, why am I not hearing from God? And
Mhm.
it is the most scary feeling.
It is scary. So for me, when I was a little girl, and I'm talking about elementary school, I felt like that voice was so clear. I spent a lot of time in church, and you don't have to be in church to hear his voice, but I spent a lot of time in church, and it seemed to be really, really clear. But then you get busy, and
Yeah.
you turn your attentions to a lot of adult things, right? And we have to do, I think, a couple of things to keep that communication open. We have to we have to soften our hearts. There's a lot of talk in the Bible about hardening your heart. And you're not going to be able, even the apostles sometimes had hardened hearts. You're not going to be able to hear from him, or
Mm.
hear from him clearly, if you don't soften your heart and open it to that. And then also a couple other things: prayer and staying in the word.
Mm.
Even though I grew up in church, I didn't read the Bible on my own very much at all, until I got much later into my years. And so, reading the Bible, because that's his voice right there. So
Mm.
reading the Bible deep into that, deep into his word, so that he can communicate to you that way. And then also in prayer, where he also will communicate with you. You cannot hear his voice if your mind is racing. And if you're like me, my mind is always turned on. I'm always thinking about the next thing to do. But, and even though I'm telling you this, I will be
Mm.
honest with you, I do not do it as much as I should.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm running, running, running. You've got to take a moment, give that
Mm.
moment, or really more than a moment, give it to him.
Yeah.
Quiet, still yourself, give it to him, and then you'll find that that communication is getting clearer and clearer.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think um, when I was younger, I heard God's voice more clearly than what I do now. And
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
probably because we're so busy in the stuck in the nitty gritty of life, right? There's
Hmm.
so much that comes into play when we're adulting. Um, that we, it's actually very difficult for me actually to even go to sleep at night because my mind is just going with whatever it is that I need to do.
You too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I marvel at people that can just put their heads on the pillow and it's almost as if they're turning off a switch. And there
Oh,
you go.
that's my husband. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Oh my goodness. Um, I've received another message from someone saying, I actually feel overwhelmed and tears are building up because Yvette is the first person that I've ever hear say that joy is not about happiness or being happy all the time.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is just so he's given me this message, right? And I am, I'm just trying to be obedient. And I really want to I'm really thinking about the word obedience these days.
Mm,
It takes such a bad rap in this day and age, right?
mhm.
But we have to be obedient to God. And so I'm just taking a message that he's given me and sharing it. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that it's connecting with you, listener. And
Mhm.
I encourage you um, to pray, to make time for prayer, and to jump into the Bible. And even if it's because of a Bible reading plan, however, for me, you know how it
Yeah.
was for me, how I first started back into the Bible journaling. And
Mhm.
not everybody knows what that is. And I didn't know what that it was until I happened to see a Bible journaling kit. There's It's like scrapbooking in the Bible. I know that sounds crazy. Some people will understand it. And some people will think that's scandalous and sacrilegious, but there are
Mhm.
Bibles that are made for you to be
Mhm.
able to write your notes in and add color and all kinds of things. And because I didn't grow up reading the Bible on my own, this brought me back into it. So I say, however it works to bring you back to the Bible,
Mm.
get back
Mhm.
into it.
I love that. That's it's beautiful because for me, I had a hard time getting back into it. And what I did was I felt led one day to buy myself a little devotional.
Mm.
Um, and believe me, there are days when I feel it happens every day where I feel like, what the heck did God like rip this page out and put it here in the place that I'm supposed to read?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how it feels. You know, everything that I read on a specific day is relevant to what I'm going through on that specific day. And
Yes.
it's crazy. I was reading it. There was a point in time when I was reading it actually with someone, and both of us would be like, "What the heck?" It's like it's being shuffled, and because we actually follow, like you
Mhm.
read one devotion today, then I turn the page and I read the next one, so I'm following it in sequential order, but that is what has been going on, and it's really the hand of God. What else can I say?
Yeah,
Um, because you can't explain it. Can't explain it.
absolutely.
Um, Let me see. And she also says it's just that sometimes you get so misinterpreted of not being joyful because you don't always smile or laugh,
Hmm.
and people judge you according to that, right?
That's true. That's true. I've had people tell me,
Hmm.
"Oh, you should smile." I mean, I guess I have what they call resting bee face. I don't know. I don't know. But things are fine. But yeah, it is interesting. People expect you
Mm,
to look a certain way, or you to reflect
Mhm.
And I will say this though. I mean, I have had people tell me that I reflect joy or that I reflect something, but I would say that the people who are telling you, "Oh, smile, smile, smile," they probably need to look inward.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that right there. You're right. They probably do need to look inward. Let's just go to the comments quickly, and then I want to jump into what your journey has been. We have Catherine Lang. Thank you for being here. She says, I started reading one chapter of Proverbs by the number of the day. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that. And then she
That's
says,
interesting.
and then I broke down Psalms to readings in 30 days. Okay. And and then I broke the whole Bible into readings for 30 days. But now I do that spread out over 120 days. That's actually a good idea. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea. There's lots of
yeah,
different ways to start. I've heard people say start in Romans or start in the gospel.
mm,
For me, I started using Bible journaling, but I did use Bible plans from YouVersion. There's lots of different ways to
yes,
do it, and really, I don't think that anything is better than another, except as how if it keeps you going, right?
yes, yes. There's no formula.
Yeah,
Just pick something that'll help you move forward
yeah,
and keep going. And if something happens where you really don't find that you are able to do that today, show yourself grace and pick it up again tomorrow.
hmm,
Um, Many of the times, we as people, we tend to, be hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up, but there's no rules, um, there's no formula, like I said, to how you should do it. Um, as long as you remember that you need to seek God, you need to spend time in His Word and praying.
hmm.
Um, I think, just keep going. Catherine also says people judge you when you do smile and laugh a lot. Oh my gosh. Catherine smiles and laughs a lot. And she's saying that people even judge you when you do that. Oh my gosh.
Hmm. That's
One
funny.
more comment from Catherine. She says, my husband does 4 chapters each day except on Sundays, and that takes him through the whole Bible in less than a year.
That's real commitment. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. And yeah, she's giving us one more comment. She says, it is your journey.
So
Exactly.
good.
You get to define it because you have to walk it. Exactly. So, like I said, there is no formula. We need to figure out what works best for us. Um,
Absolutely.
I have one more comment from a listener on radio, and they sent me a message. They say, this topic is so near and dear to my heart. I am literally in tears. So,
Oh,
wow,
yeah. That's
beautiful.
that's that's the Lord for you.
And they also said Catherine can share some of her smiles and laughter with me.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh gosh. Um, so, you know, you and I had this conversation, and I asked you, what is the one thing that has helped you overcome the adversity that you faced in your own life?
Hmm.
And your answer is faith, your
Yes.
faith in God.
Yes.
Um, Can you tell us more about that? Elaborate and feel free to share a story or two. Um, because, yeah, faith is definitely a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful that that is what has helped you overcome. Go ahead, jump right in,
Sure.
Yvette.
Yeah. Well, faith means a lot of things. It means that you're willing to trust him and you're willing to wait on his timing. So I'll give you a story. It's one that happened most recently. And it's you're not going to believe me when I tell you this, but it really did happen. So as you know, I've just mentioned that I've moved from Oklahoma City area to Kansas City. And I also mentioned to you that, when I have a big decision to make, I definitely was trying to keep myself open, to soften my heart, to also ask the Lord to convict me, right? If I was not proceeding in the way that he wanted me to proceed. So I did all that and everything seemed to be working out really smoothly. So I made this big move. It was a big move.
Mm.
And I had rented a house. I had gotten the keys for the house. I'd even come down and had put some things in the house. And my husband and I, we made separate trips because he was working on the day that I drove down. So we already had some things in the house, but the big move day was happening on a Monday. So Monday, they packed up our old house, got the trucks going on the road, and they were going to unpack us in Kansas City the next day. That would have been Tuesday morning. So I arrived to my house that I had rented on
Mm.
Monday evening. My husband was a couple hours behind me, still on the highway. So when I get there, my car is packed full, including the dog and the cat. And I get there and I pull up to the house and I see a car in the driveway. And the car is not my car, it doesn't belong to me. So it's been a long day. I'm tired. I'm wondering what's going on. I'm looking to make sure I have the right address. I get out of the car. A woman opens my door. She says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, this is my house. What are you doing in my house?" And she says, "Oh, no, no, this is my house. We leased this house." So it's Monday night about 8 o'clock. All offices are closed. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
First thing, I don't know if she's dangerous. I don't know, right? So I don't want to engage with her. So the first thing I do is I say I have to find a place to spend the night with the dog and the cat, right? So I find a hotel. I call my husband. Turns out he'd had a blowout on the highway, which can be very dangerous. So this was not a great night. So he finally got to the hotel and we're just sitting there looking at each other. There's nothing to do. I've left messages everywhere, but it's nighttime, right? All offices
Oh
are.
my gosh.
So we're just sitting there thinking about all the bad things that could happen. I mean, you know how we talk about our mind races all the time.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, here's what's going to happen. I have to find a place to put all my stuff because the movers have another job the next day.
Mm.
And now I have to find a facility to put my stuff in, and that's going to cost extra money. And then they're going to challenge my lease, which means they have 30 days usually to stay there. So where am I going to be, and how am I going to start my new job? I mean, just all these things are rushing through my head. So we're just sitting on. There's two beds in the room, and we're literally facing each other, sitting on either side of this bed of the two beds. And it basically occurred to me that there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Literally, there's nothing I can do. All I can do is wait and trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's what came to mind. All you can do is just wait and trust. It was just I never would have guessed this. We did nothing wrong. Everything we did was correct. But as it turns out, the people there either, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to say that she was scammed by another person who pretended to be a landlord and
Wow.
who she paid money to and who she got into the house by having a locksmith come in and let her in. It's a long story, which I won't, yeah, it's a long story, which I won't go into. But anyway, the next day, we wake up to mercies, fresh mercies in the morning, right? So
Yeah.
we wake up and I start again calling everyone. I get a call back from my leasing agency. She says, "No, no, no, this is you. Call the police." I call the police. They meet me there. They establish that I am the rightful owner. We call the woman because she did give me her phone number. And she realizes that she's been scammed.
Wow.
And she agrees to come and get all her stuff, and everything went smoothly. All
Mm-hmm.
the fear I had the night before that she was going to challenge the lease and I was going to have to go to court, there's going to be 30 days and the whole deal, none of that happened. None of that happened at all. And so I was just praising the Lord. And I felt bad for her because she's
Mm-hmm.
out money. And I did ask her, I said, "Do you have a place to stay?" And she said, "Yeah." I mean, obviously it wasn't a place she wanted to go, but she said she did. And we were able to move in without incident. It was the
Wow.
craziest thing ever, but it just reminded me of that very thing, that you can't do everything sometimes. Sometimes there's nothing you can do but to
Yeah.
wait on the Lord and to trust Him
Yeah.
and to
Wow.
have faith that everything will work out. So that's
Wow.
my most recent story.
Wow. That's beautiful. I'm glad that everything worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can
But I
just
also
imagine.
have to believe that even if it didn't work out, I have to believe that he would have come
It's a
through, and
reason.
I would have had a place to put my stuff, and I would have been able to find someplace else to rest my head until it worked out. I do have faith in that. I'm happy that didn't happen, but if it did, I
Yeah.
have to have faith that it still would have worked out.
Yeah. Well, um, let's go to the comments and then we can talk again. I just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was something. It really was.
Wow, I can just imagine. Catherine is saying, and remember that what worked yesterday may not work today. You are walking through seasons and you have to allow things to change.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's really
true.
good, Catherine. Yeah, yeah.
And Carl is saying faith is definitely the key. He also says that all he asks is that we be willing and obedient. Then you shall eat the good of the land. Amen.
Amen,
Amen.
Carl, because that's exactly what happened. That's exactly
Yeah,
what happened to me.
beautiful.
Hmm.
Catherine is saying that my husband can be the Ricky Bobby of mind racing craziness. Oh my gosh.
You have to know the movie Talladega Nights to get that reference.
Yeah. um, and I received a message from a listener. They said, wow, that is a sore topic about faith. The waiting period is always the hardest and
Yeah,
really tests your endurance and your perseverance.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, um, Yvette, what other kind of adversity have you faced that really has shown you that faith is that one thing that has
Mm,
helped you overcome? Can you share a little bit more with us, please?
sure. This might be a little bit maybe less, amazing than the other example, but I mean, I think most of us can appreciate having a difficult relationship with someone. Maybe it's someone you work with, or maybe it's someone in your family,
Mm,
and you feel betrayed, or you feel like they've lied to you, or something happened, right? But yet you still have to work with this person, or you have to have some kind of a relationship with this person. And it can be really hard to not bear grudges and to bear difficult feelings, especially when you're around this person and you feel like you've been somehow denied in some way, right?
mm-hmm,
And that's really, really hard. But it was interesting. I was on Facebook the other day, and I just, for whatever reason, this person's Facebook profile popped up. I wasn't looking for it, just popped up. And I had been trying very, very hard to forgive this person, not for me. I mean, this person probably didn't even care or didn't even know that the person was causing me distress. But but I was trying to forgive the person because it was the right thing to do, right? And so when I saw this person's face popped up, and I hadn't thought of this person in a long time, and I thought, oh wow, okay, Lord, thank you, because I tried to do what you asked me to do, and to have faith that if I just forgave and stopped focusing on this, that that I would hurt less, and that I would, I get over this. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm.
Sometimes this is a day-to-day thing. This isn't, like a huge big story or anything, but I think sometimes it's the smaller day-to-day things that we
Yes.
have to focus on to get through life, right? So I think, if that my example was just having a difficult relationship with someone, but it could be anything. But it's the fact that you have to have faith, and again, abide in his
Mm.
love and do his will, like Jesus said,
Mhm.
to be filled with the joy. Because if we're filled with his joy, then what do we care if someone hurt our feelings? Or what do we care if someone said something about us? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Mm.
it doesn't even matter. So that's a
Mm.
small thing, but I think it's having faith in what he tells us to do, and again being obedient, like Carl said.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, for anyone listening whose faith has wavered or waned, um, do you have any tips on how to cultivate that faith so that you can um, grow your faith again?
hmm So if someone's faith is wavering, I think it could be because of a couple of things. It could be because they just feel like they haven't heard from God in such a long time, or maybe that their prayers are going unanswered,
Yep.
or they feel like that something happened in their lives and they're mad at God. Like,
Mm.
when my mother passed, my niece was mad at God for a little while.
Mm.
So I think there's a couple things that can happen to make our faith waver.
Yeah.
But one thing I think to remember is that, and I think maybe Carl even said this, he is the same God that he was thousands of years ago. He's the same God.
Yeah. Yeah.
We personally are going through different things. And yes, he cares about each one of us, and he knows the hairs on our head, and that is all true. But
Mm.
there's a bigger picture. And I know some people don't want to hear the bigger picture argument. But frankly, there are just going to be some times when we don't know why things are happening. I
Yes.
just interviewed a young mother who
Mm.
learned during her pregnancy that her baby had Down syndrome. And when she had the baby early, so now the baby is in NICU, the neonatal ICU.
Mm.
And that mother is going through a very hard time, but it's so amazing. Her faith is so amazing to see. And I've been following with her, and she gives daily reports on how the baby is doing. And remember, I told you about our Facebook group, Positively Joy Community. We have a
Yes.
prayer line where we're praying for that baby. And every time I hear a report, I put that in the prayer line. There are some that she doesn't know. She doesn't know why this has happened to her and her baby and her family. And
Yeah.
there are going to be lots of days when we don't know and we don't understand. And that's okay, because sometimes we're not meant to understand.
Yeah.
But if you can, and I think it's helpful if you read the Bible and pray, if
Mm.
you can try to dive into that faith and understand that he's with us. He is walking with us even in this terrible time that you're in now. Or if you're one of the ones who think that he's just not around anymore because you didn't hear from him like I did,
Mm.
you will be surprised. You may get a very welcome surprise.
Wow. I know. I know so many actually people who started out and were very zealous for the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and then faced a time where they just felt like God is not answering, God is not speaking to them
Yeah.
anymore, and they felt this disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is your advice for people like that? Like, how do they, how do we, I don't know, how do we get past that? Because I know God is always there and He remains there,
Yeah.
but how do we get past that feeling that He's not?
Well, we are humans, and sometimes humans need to be recharged. And I
Mm.
get recharged a lot of different ways. I get recharged by going to church and worshiping and hearing a great sermon and applying that to my life. I get recharged by going to conferences and retreats when I can. And I get recharged just by spending time in the Bible. I think we have to recharge ourselves. There, like you said, there's that person that's on fire for God, and then over time it kind of wanes. You got to stoke that fire. You got to put some fresh wood on that fire. And so
Yeah.
that's a few ways I think that can help.
Yeah, we can't just wait for something to happen, right?
Right, right.
Let's see. I see Catherine. Wait.
Catherine's funny.
Yes, she is. She was actually one of my Wonder Women a few weeks ago. And she says, for the record, my husband had a brief appearance in Talladega Nights.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and try to. Who is that? What did he play? Was it extra?
Yes, let us know. And we also have Carl. He says, this is the season to recover all. God is doing great things for his people in these end times. We just have to stay in the holy place.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Carl. Catherine also says, if you aren't feeding the fire, then you are waiting for it to fail. That's so
Yes,
true.
that is true. Yes, that's true, Catherine. And
That's so true.
Carl's in his Bible. I can tell.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
Yes, he is.
Um, I received a message from a listener. They said, thank you to your guest and even you, Inga, for this beautiful discussion. I'm really inspired and filled with an even greater hope and hunger to seek an even closer relationship with God. So beautiful.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Um, Catherine says, thank you, Carl. I needed that today. Beautiful.
Mhm. Yes.
And another listener sent me a message saying, for the longest time, I felt like a crazy person for I always try my best to do as God instructs. And whilst many others do not understand why I do something, even though it seems to others it is the wrong thing to do, but I just know within me that I have to push onwards and carry on. Okay, I need to comment on this. So let me read it again. For the longest time, I felt like a crazy person, for I always try my best to do as God instructs. And whilst many others do not understand why I do something, even though it seems to others it is the wrong thing to do, I just know within me that I have to push onwards and carry on. I want to address this for you. Um, I hope you're still listening. When God called you to something, it was not a conference call. Okay? I know that's funny. I read this message before and I laughed, but it's so true. It
Mhm.
was not a conference call. And people don't have to understand why you do something. You know, as somebody who wants to be obedient to God, go ahead and do it. Be obedient. And maybe eventually that person will understand, and maybe they won't, but that's okay. It's not a conference call. Do you have
Mhm.
anything to
And
add?
yeah, and
Hmm.
one other thing.
Yeah.
Someone told me once, and I thought this was very, very true, especially when we are craving and desiring to hear from Him, to hear His voice. That God's voice, that His message for us will never conflict what's in the Bible.
Mm,
So if you are hearing or being told to do something that is in direct conflict
mm,
to what's in the Holy Word, then that's not Him.
yeah. Yeah. And when I remember being 18 years old and speaking to a pastor, and he told me this, and I've seen it to be true as I've grown in my Christianity. He said, um, When God speaks to you and God is telling you something specific, He will confirm it in different ways, at least another way, right? So if
Mhm.
you feel that God has told you to do X, then some way, somehow, through the Bible, through a song, through circumstances, through a friend, God is going to confirm for you that that is the way that you need to move forward. So make sure you
Absolutely.
listen and listen for him, because he will definitely confirm for you.
Mhm.
Um, Catherine is saying, Amen, amen, amen. Stop looking behind you to see who is following. Stay focused on the one you are following.
Oh, so good, Catherine. So good.
Beautiful. Um, okay, we have reached the top of the hour, Yvette. Won't you please share your final thoughts with us on this topic and anything else, and also let people know exactly where they can find you?
Yes. Well, thank you again so much. Thank you. I would love for people to reach out, especially those who really felt something today. You can reach me through positivelyjoy.com, my website. And I am, you will see me hopefully speaking in various areas. So I would love to see you if you have an opportunity to come to an event where I'm speaking at. And for those of you in the Oklahoma area, I am planning a conference, a women's evening, or it could be a women's morning. We haven't settled on the time yet. Later this year. So check the website, and also, my Facebook, positivelyjoy.com page for updates on that. I just want to gather with people and continue to send out this message that the Lord has given me to send, and just pray that it connects with the right people. And it sounds like it connected with a few people today, and I'm just so blessed by that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here and spending this hour with me, Yvette. It was a blessing, to just hear your perspective and also to hear about joy and faith, what that means to you. So thank you for blessing us today. It was really a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're still watching or listening, I want to say thank you for spending this time with us. And check out Yvette's website, positivelyjoy.com. Positivelyjoy.com. Don't forget the E when you check out the website, positivelyjoy.com. Thank you so much for being here with us. And please, if you're still watching live, and you want, you can come over and join us on africa.co.za. I'll be playing some music and wrapping up today's topic. Please note that there is no episode of Wonder Women Wednesday next week, but I will be back the following week. Until then, take care and be blessed. See you soon. And